Dave, I'm ready when you are.
I'd like to call the March meeting of the Peters Township Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call?
Mr. Cartafilis is not here this evening. Mr. Mills is not here this evening. Mr. Magrino?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Salepis?
Here.
Mr. Smith is not here, and Mrs. Corbel is not here.
The minutes are before us for January 12th meeting. Could I have a motion or changes to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2023 meeting.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye. Any reports or correspondence not in our packet?
No,
Any site plans or subdivisions that have been filed?
not right now.
Any changes to the agenda?
Yes, item 3 has been removed at the request of the applicant. Item E, not item 3, I apologize. Item E.
Okay. Are there any audience comments that have nothing to do with tonight's agenda? You could come up now. Hearing none, we'll move on. Oh, you have some? Oh, come on up. Come on up.
Okay, I'm not really quite prepared for
That's okay.
conversation.
We're loose.
We have a sign-in sheet right up here on this
Oh,
page.
okay, perfect. Okay, sorry, it's my first time here. My name is Renee Kirshner. Let me just finish signing this up for
And
you.
then what's your address?
208 Canterwood Drive.
Thank you.
I'm here basically because I am part of
Stay by the microphone.
Oh, I didn't know you couldn't hear me. Okay. I am here because there's been lots of women on the Peters Township Moms Facebook page. We represent about 3,500 moms in the area. And ever since there's been a lot of construction across from the Empress Arabian's site there on Sugar Camp Road, there's been a lot of comments and talks and posts that a lot of women have been kind of unhappy about the destruction of, some of the green space. And they were kind of wondering if there was something that we could do, maybe either through petitions or even sending emails to kind of voice our opinions about what they would like to see with the township moving forward as like taxpayers. Do our opinions about how many housing developments get put in, do we have any say on that? Can we at least voice our opinion so that the council could take that into consideration?
Sure, absolutely, you sure can. All of the
Okay.
above.
All of the above. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Because I told them after I got here today I would, update everybody with what we might be able to do in the future. So thank you very much.
Not only to this commission, but also to the Peters Township Council,
Okay.
who meets twice a month.
Twice a month, second and fourth Mondays of each month. And Renee, I'll let
Yes.
you, just a little bit of recent history. This issue has been brought up to Planning Commission. Planning Commission has kind of brought it up organically amongst themselves. They've made recommendations to council. We had a workshop 2 weeks ago, a joint workshop between Planning Commission and council. Out of that workshop was a pending ordinance developed by staff at the request of council to some changes to the township zoning map. And what you're seeing, the development you're referring to, is our Pemberley Manor development. It was approved and under construction under the Conservation Residential Overlay. That overlay is currently lifted from all properties that aren't approved for development or under construction or in the approval process. It's been temporarily lifted as part of that pending ordinance to be reviewed at a later date. So I think in general that's addressing, I think your primary concern is that type of smaller lot development. There's a little bit more nuance to that, but there's, some changes that are pending kind of dealing with what you're talking about.
Okay. Because I know that someone also, and again, I don't know, these could be rumors, but somebody had also mentioned that they were concerned about the schools and the districts because with the amount of new families and children, someone had mentioned that they thought they overheard that the brand new high school is already pretty much at capacity so that there wouldn't really be a whole lot of room. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if you can make any comments on that. That would be maybe something else, maybe at a different meeting with a different group of...
I think that's probably a school board question.
A school board? Okay, so I'll go there too. And also maybe a zoning. I see that they also have specific days that they meet for the zoning committees.
The zoning is a little bit more isolated to cases that they have to.
Oh, okay.
And those
okay.
are they only meet as needed.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's a quasi-court type situation. So you might
Oh,
want to,
okay.
I'm not saying you can't go, but
Sure,
it's
sure.
more of
Okay.
a court hearing on a lower level.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, everybody.
Absolutely. Any other comments from the audience? And hearing none, and we don't have any old business to take care of, we'll go on into new business. And the first one is, it's a recommendation regarding the Hamlet of Springdale, lots 609C and 610C. It's a consolidation plan located on Buckingham Drive.
This is the first of two consolidation plans as part of Hamlet Phase 6 that you're going to see tonight. This is Lot 609 and 610 of the Hamlet of Springdale Phase 6, now Lot 609C, Lot 610C to be consolidated into a single lot. This will be a total .488 acre lot as revised. It meets all the regulations of the Conservation Residential Overlay, and staff is making a recommendation of approval subject to 3 conditions. The first being Washington County Planning Commission review. The second, Peters Creek Sanitary Authority approval, and they just need to put a right-of-way label for Buckingham Drive.
What was the reason for consolidating? They plan on just putting a house?
Yeah, I
on
think,
it?
they've seen a need for maybe a larger house in these 2 lots that can't be accommodated at the current lot size, so they're choosing to consolidate.
Any questions, guys? Any audience comments? Have anything going on, Conrad? You think it's all right?
I'd like to make a recommendation that Planning Commission, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval for the Hamlet of Springdale, Lot 609C and 610C, subject to those 3 conditions outlined in the staff memo, February 28, 2023.
I will second.
Having a motion and second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next one is a recommendation as well. Also, the Hamlet of Springdale, lots 611C and 612C, a consolidation plan. Seth?
Yeah, similarly, this is the adjacent 2 parcels, same proposal to consolidate 2 existing lots, Lot 611 and 612 of the Hamlet of Springdale Phase 6, into a total .467 acre lot. Also meets all of the regulations of the Conservation Residential Overlay. Staff is making a recommendation of approval, subject to 2 conditions: Washington County Planning Commission approval and the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority approval.
I have a question. Does Buckingham, is that just an end of the road there?
No, it is, but the right-of-way is situated to facilitate a connection to the adjacent property if it were to ever develop.
But the developers don't own that property yet?
Yeah, separate property. Yeah.
So it's not a cul-de-sac,
Nope.
it's just the road ends
Just
there?
dead end, yep.
Okay.
Any audience comments about the recommendation? Hearing none. Any comments from you guys? If not, can I hear an action motion?
I will make a motion that the Hamlet of Springdale, Lot 611C and 612C consolidation be approved in accordance with staff's memo dated February 28th, 2023, including the 2 recommendations listed.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Third item is a recommendation, the Beinhauer plan of lots, number 2 on Just About Road.
This is a proposed subdivision plan to reconfigure the lot lines of 4 existing lots along Just About Road. The primary goal here is to give one of the lots frontage on Just About Road. Currently, this lot here in the center is landlocked, has no frontage on any public or private right-of-way. The proposed subdivision plan will reconfigure lot lines to give both that lot and the adjacent lot a shared amount of frontage on Just About. I believe the goal here is to construct a new home on that rear lot, and frontage on Just About Road is needed. No new lots are being created, just the reconfiguration of those lots. Staff is making a recommendation of approval of the Beinhauer plan of lots number 2, subject to approval of the Peters Township Sanitary Authority.
Is there construction currently underway on the back lot?
I do not believe so, but I would
That was
check.
just up on Just About Road.
The back lot, no, there is not.
Okay.
Seth, my eyes are failing me, but that is 50 feet, or 50.3 feet and 63 feet in terms of width.
Your eyes are on it.
And our minimum is 50 for lot frontage, correct?
Yeah.
Being that this rear lot is a flag lot, does that meet the criteria of the flag lot?
does. They just, you couldn't build a house until you get back into the deeper portion of the
Sure.
lot. Yeah.
Now, the lot to the upper right, about 1 o'clock, where does that feed from?
This
Right.
lot here, Dave, this one here,
Yeah.
it does not have frontage on a public right-of-way, but it's not being, proposed as such. It has access off
Okay.
this Gardner Lane, and there is an existing house there.
Is that more or less a driveway?
Yeah, it's a shared driveway for this lot and then the larger lot in the rear.
And just for my own information, how do we look at, in this township, front yard, rear yard, side yard? Well, front, rear, and side, specifically on flag lots. Setbacks.
So typically, your front is off the front of the lot. The sides, the front should carry through. If this was a more traditional flag lot, without these strange configurations, it would come all the way back here, but because it's got some odd lot lines, it's a little bit different. The rear would be off this line here, and then your sides would come in off the...
But you don't treat the left-hand portion of the flag lot as like the street? And our minimum is what, 25 feet from the street?
15. You're talking about on a side yard setback? Or,
Or like for them to put a house on that lot,
yeah,
how far back off of the front lot line? If you're facing Just About Road,
this lot line here,
yes. How far?
it should be 50. That's shown as 15. I'm going to have to get that changed, I think.
Yeah, because it just
Yeah,
looks
I hear
odd
you,
with
I
the
hear
side
you.
yard.
There's
Yeah,
still-
no, I hear you.
But is it deep enough to put?
It's definitely deep enough, yeah.
Okay.
I have no concerns about that. I mean, it's 241 feet deep,
All right.
yeah.
It looks skinnier than that in the picture, but.
I guess my only
We have
question
to
was,
ask.
was as long as the applicant's aware that that's not necessarily representing the correct front yard setback.
Yeah.
Should we put that in as?
Yeah,
a-
let's add that, Dave, that,
Probably the rear yard setback as well.
yes, yeah.
And that side yard looks a little thick.
That's fine.
It's,
I mean, it's not, we wouldn't be changing those regulations here anyways. That would necessarily be it. I just want to make sure that when we approve this, we're not running afoul of whatever the development plan for this is.
we should add that.
Yeah.
So can we revise the motion to include a 50-foot and a 40-foot rear yard setback on the
Why don't we
front?
just
rear
say
yard?
rear-
Say it.
Yeah, setbacks in accordance with,
Yep, the low-density residential zoning district.
Any other comments from the audience?
Nope.
good. I'd like to make a motion, the planning commission recommend approval of the Anthony plans.
Nope.
No,
Fine.
wrong one, sorry. Oh, I think I jumped about one. Thank you. Pardon me.
You want me to make a motion?
I got it.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the planning commission recommend approval for the Beinhauer plan of lots number 2, subject to those 2 conditions, including condition number 2 regarding the setback shall be in accordance with the low-density residential district as outlined in staff's memo of March 2, 2023.
I'll second.
Having a motion and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
Thank you.
Next item is the recommendation regarding the Anthony Farms Plan of Lots, Phase 3, revision number 2, on Brayburn Drive.
So Peters Township Land Company LLC is the developer of the Anthony Farms plan. This is part of Anthony Farms Phase 3. We've seen the development of Phase 1 and Phase 2. As part of Phase 3, they're proposing to take a little bit of that property and consolidate it into 2 existing parcels as part of Anthony Farms Phase 2, which is lots 310 and 309 here in red and blue, and then split the remaining parcel into 2 large estate lots with direct access off of Brayburn Drive. They will be able to provide sanitary sewers to all these lots. They'll have to do a sanitary sewer extension from lot 400 RRRR to lot 319, but that will be accommodated as part of this plan. No planning module is needed because there was a previous consolidation done in Anthony Farms Phase 2 that accounted for a tap for one of these, so it's a wash. Staff is making a recommendation of approval subject to the 3 conditions as outlined in Ed's March 2nd report.
So the overall a little over 7.5 acre parcel is just being subdivided into 2 lots.
Yep. Lot 319 is going to be just over 3 acres. Parcel 400 just over 4.25 acres.
And their plan is to construct a single home on each of the 2
As of right
properties.
now, on each of those lots, yeah.
And it'll connect to Brayburn.
Yes.
Because that's a culvert
There's
right now,
some challenging topography there. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about that.
with no access to McMurray Road.
I believe at this time, all the plan is to have those homes access Brayburn.
And the open space needs for that area, is that all matter?
It's all been met. Yeah.
Are these 2 lots serviced by the existing stormwater management facilities in Anthony Farms?
Yes.
Yeah, that 400 RRR will be a tough one to find a spot on.
Truthfully, we're running out of space in our fields and our subdivision plans and our GIS system.
Any comments from the audience regarding this item? I don't have any questions. It's 2 big lots.
And Seth, we haven't seen a development plan for this yet, right?
For Phase 3?
For these 2 lots?
No, not for these 2 lots, no.
In these 2
Some
lots.
concepts, Rocco, but nothing final.
But this is considered Phase 3?
Yep.
How do they cross the conservation easement? You may have already mentioned that.
We'll have to figure that out when we start working on these house permits. I think there's a means to do it, some type of bridge access across that conservation easement, Rocco. I don't have that answer right now, but as we start getting closer to issuing building permits for this house, we'll certainly have to figure that
It's a
out.
50-foot bridge. Okay. I don't know the quality of the easement, whether it says it can be disturbed or what have you.
So there's different levels of...
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can, it depends what the easement is for, but usually conservationists don't disturb it.
Not allowed in and not allowed to build anything.
It would depend on what that instrument says, but,
Yeah.
and that's not for us today, which is why I was just asking it. Are there any concerns or considerations that, the applicant may be thinking otherwise, so.
That'll come later with a site plan, sure. Okay, I don't have too much to add or questions. If I could hear an action motion on that, Conrad?
I'll make a motion that the Anthony Farms Plan of Lots Phase 3, revision number 2 final plan be approved in accordance with staff's memo dated March 2nd, 2023, including the 3 recommendations outlined in staff's memo.
Second.
Having a motion and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Item F, This is a final approval
Yes.
for the Always Be Smiling site plan on 107 Valley Brook Road.
The Always Be Smiling organization, as a co-applicant with the property owner, Thomas A. Robinson Family Limited Partnership, they are applying for a site plan approval for a 3,300 square foot activity center with associated parking utilities at 107 Valley Brook Road. This should seem familiar to those of you on Planning Commission. We reviewed this in 2022 as part of a variance application request before the Township Zoning Hearing Board. They needed some variances in terms of the front and rear yard setbacks to accommodate this project. It's a very narrow piece of property. Those variances were granted by the Zoning Hearing Board on October 18th of 2022, and they are back before you tonight for site plan approval. As I mentioned, this is a 3,300 square foot activity center to service the Always Be Smiling organization. They have 10 of their parking spaces to be paved via asphalt, including the required ADA parking spaces. The sanitary sewer facilities of the site will include a holding tank. They're required to do a holding tank agreement with the township. They will also be doing a water holding tank for the water service. Neither of those public utilities exist near this site that they can access, but they are fully prepared to go down that path and put that infrastructure in. There is a series of site landscapings proposed throughout the site, not only along the Montour Trail, Arrowhead Trail, where the property has frontage, but in the exterior of the property where they have some outdoor gathering and seating spaces. They will be proposing 2 separate trailhead connections, one to predominantly service the activity center, the second to service a total of 37 additional parking spaces that could be used for the general public. So we're going to have some additional trailhead parking here. Those parking spaces will just be gravel, with the remainder being paved. They will be including a dumpster location here and an outdoor park as part of their site plan. The proposed building is a gray building, some outdoor covered areas towards the entrance and along the Arrowhead Trail as part of their outdoor seating. Staff has reviewed this with Gateway Engineers, and we are prepared to make a recommendation of approval, subject to the 11 conditions as outlined in my March 1, 2023 report. We have the applicant, their representatives here this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions, but they can answer questions as well.
Okay, thanks, Seth.
Good evening, Mike Wetzel, Victor Wetzel Associates. And as always, Seth does a wonderful job in summarizing our application. So if you do have any questions in regard to the site plan, as Seth mentioned, it's very similar to what you saw when we were here in front of you for the Zoning Hearing Board meeting. So,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, Mike.
Mike, what's left on the gateway letter? I mean, is there anything left that we need to be concerned about? Any significant design elements, or is it housekeeping?
It was just housekeeping items. We had talked to the applicant earlier in the week and just talked through a few things, so just some housekeeping things.
As for the private sanitary sewer service, I'm sure that has all the bells, like the alarms if it goes overflow, and the records
Exactly.
have to be presented to the township and an inspection every year, that kind of.
Yes, exactly. We'd follow all those regulations as required.
Could you explain a little bit more about the water service? If I understood Seth's comments,
Sure.
there's no direct water line
Yeah,
to the
there is no
property.
water line.
So you're going to create essentially a holding tank to fulfill the water needs for bathroom. Is it potable water or?
Oh, yes. So basically, it's going in simplicity form, one tank to another tank.
Okay. So
In regard to that.
Dean's water will be coming.
Dean water, there'd be the tank located right along the very front. That'd be filled up as needed. Same kind of sensors that'd be provided that would be able to be used for all the facilities within the plant. At first, we had thought about a well, but we want to be able to have good drinking water, which is why Dean's Water will be supplying the water for this facility for all uses.
Seth, could you jump to the enlarged site plan? Just one quick question. I noticed removable bollards at the entrance onto Montour Trail. how will those be controlled? Is that for access for emergency vehicles or?
Yes, it's just there for in case of emergency vehicles needed to be there. We didn't want to be able to have anybody drive up and gain access into the Montour Trail. And once again, they're just there for emergency purposes.
Gotcha. So just detailed out so the township Knox box or shear pins for those bollards, just to make sure that's clear that
Yes.
those can be.
Yeah, Rocco, and I reviewed the site plan with the fire chief. You know,
Awesome.
it's not the best in terms of fire access. It's a very long and narrow site, but we can get access to the building if needed. As part of their turning template, they show the dumpster, the garbage truck using this as their back out to get back, head out of the site. The fire chief thinks that that's probably a reasonable use for them as well, to get back out of the site if they ever have to come in.
There's bollards at that location as well.
Yeah, there's just one bollard at that location. Once again, that area, we have what we consider more of the main parking area for Always Be Smiling, but with the excess parking, we're also going to be encouraging or allowing residents to be able to park within the gravel parking area and gain access to the Montour Trail.
And Rocco, what's going to be unique here is we're going to have parking spaces that have at-grade access to the trail. And that's very rare here in the township.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. I'm just making sure from a
Yeah.
control standpoint, we don't have people driving on the trail, because right now that access is kind of closed off. So that's the only thing, and that the township would have access, or more appropriately, emergency services access to pull those bollards or move those bollards as needed, that's all.
And as far as parking on the paved portion, would there be signage to say for Always Be Smiling customers only? Or?
We will have actually a gate located right along and through here, which will only be allowed for the people, for the Always Be Smiling, so that we won't have that, say, cross-access concern. But we'll also have really also signage that, any trail parking would be in the gravel lot.
A gate that has to be activated to go up and down?
Yes, very similar to what Mr. Robinson has outside his entrance right now.
Okay.
Sliding gate,
Sliding gate.
Yes.
chain link, or something else.
Cyclone.
Any audience comments? I think we're ready. I think it's a great thing, and the Robinson family partnering up with Always Be Smiling is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I'd like to make a motion, the Planning Commission recommend approval recommend site plan approval for the Always Be Smiling plan, subject to those 11 conditions identified in staff's planning memo of March 1, 2023.
Hey, Rocco, this is site plan approval.
Oh, okay.
This is last stop, so it's not a recommendation. It's
Very good.
Yep.
It says recommendation there, so. I'd like to make a motion the Planning Commission approve the Always Be Smiling site plan, subject to those 11 conditions identified in staff's memo of March 1, 2023.
I will gladly second that motion.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Final item on our agenda tonight is a recommendation. It's the McMurray Shops 2 variance recommendation for a site at 4100 Washington Road. Seth?
4100 Washington Road is a piece of property situated between McMurray Shops to the south and Lakeside Plaza to the north. They went before the Township Zoning Hearing Board in 2021, ultimately received variances to redevelop this property to allow them to be set back further away from Washington Road than our maximum setback. They also received variances to allow for parking to be located between the front of the building and in Route 19, the Washington Road corridor. Those variances have expired. The property is now under new ownership. They're looking to redevelop again. Those variances are being re-requested with a little bit further of a front yard setback than what was previously requested. The primary reason staff made a recommendation of approval back in 2021, and the same reason we'll be doing it this time around, we always prefer and try to facilitate interconnection between our commercial properties as much as we possibly can. And McMurray Shops, when it was developed, we left 2 parking spaces as temporary parking spaces that facilitated connection to the adjacent property, this property, with a stub right up to the property line. The proposal to redevelop 4100 Washington will continue that through the site, the front of the site, in conjunction with their main ingress and egress onto Route 19, but they will be proposing an interconnection between those 2 properties. They will try to get the parking lot at a grade that is suited to potentially connect into Lakeside Plaza. Lakeside Plaza was developed prior to our ordinance requirements for those interconnections, so it's not situated and ready for that. But the goal is to get this site at a point where if Lakeside Plaza ever does redevelop for any reason, we can facilitate that connection and get it tied in here. It's going to be a little tricky in that regard, but we do have one existing connection that we can tie into in McMurray Shops, and we think that is a great thing that warrants these requested variances. This is a recommendation to the zoning hearing board. We'll be taking them before the zoning hearing board later this month at our March 21st, 2023 hearing. Again, staff will be making a recommendation of approval subject to those 3 items, the conditions listed in my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission has. If they do get their variances, later down the road, we'll be back in front of Planning Commission for site plan approval.
How many more feet did you said was added since the last time?
The initial, they're requesting a 55-foot variance now, which puts them at 80 feet. I don't think I put in my report the initial, I think it was 35, so they were at 70 previously.
Okay.
What's changed here significantly is this piece of property is now under the same ownership as McMurray Shops, and their potential for stormwater management has improved dramatically. They can tie into the existing storm sewer that runs behind McMurray Shops, which allows them to maybe develop this property differently, more efficiently, but they need to get further back away from Route 19 to do that. So that's why they're requesting these additional, the further setback. We're not putting any more parking between the building and Route 19 than we previously were, just a little bit different configuration.
But the 2 plazas adjacent on either side of this property has parking in fairly close proximity to Route 19.
Right.
Would it follow the same line, or are you saying that the parking for this parcel would be set back further?
The parking, the frontage parking is going to be in line. The building itself will likely be somewhat in line with McMurray Shops and Lakeside Plaza.
Okay.
It's going to look like a cohesive line of buildings here and parking in the front.
The plan is to demolish the
Yes.
2
Yes.
buildings.
Demolish everything on site, complete redevelopment.
Clean slate?
Yep.
Okay.
Will the proposed building generally align with that of McMurray Plaza?
In terms of location or
Setback
appearance?
from Route 19?
Yes, generally speaking.
Generally.
Yes.
So they'll line up?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
And in speaking with the new owner and their consultants here tonight, the goal is to make them look similar, maybe not the same.
Sure.
Times have changed, materials have changed, but similar.
Okay.
Another question on that. McMurray Plaza is going to lose 2 parking spaces with the interconnection. Are they well enough parked that that's not an issue?
They'll be fine. That was thought of when that property was developed. Those are just bonus spaces.
And that building has parking in the rear?
Yes.
Because there are, I think there's a few tenants in the back of the building.
They have angled parking along the side and angled parking along the rear as well.
One last question about the recommendation number 3. All necessary permits. Is that regarding site, or is that also building and electrical and all the other rest?
For our purposes, it's building. That's the one that typically is applied for last, so we like to see that at least applied for in a reasonable time period. And we think a year from the time the variances are granted is generally reasonable. we're not saying it has to be approved by any means.
Just apply for
Apply.
something within that year. Is that usually the last permit to obtain?
It'll be one of the last ones they apply for, and it'll be one of the last ones they get, because we'll wait till they get their HOP and any outstanding third-party permits before we issue them their building permit. But they'll typically apply for their HOP earlier on, because it's a much longer approval process.
And you'll have an NPDS most likely, possibly. I think it was the law.
Lisa, we already have an HOP for that entrance there.
Could you
We
please
did that when.
come up to the-
Mike, can you come up to,
All
yeah,
right.
just your name and your address, Mike.
Mike Rizzo, I'm the consulting engineer for East Star Realty, the developers. We already have an HOP for the driveway entrance that was developed by the previous applicant, John Alex, and we're just carrying that over into this time. We're under an acre of disturbance, so we won't need any NPDES. It's just the site plan. And speaking with Mr. Claxon, he wants to get moving on it like now. So expect within a couple months
Yeah, and I
to get
expect
this
those
boots on the ground.
buildings to come down very soon. We've had some initial conversations with them about that. And that's something they can do right
They're
now.
vacant.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the Tarot Card building on 19.
So if I want my
If you want your fortune read, you got to go somewhere
Gotta go
else.
now, Conrad. I'm still looking for my fortune.
Conrad, this is your last chance.
And so the time frame then is acceptable to the applicant.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would make a marked improvement
Yeah,
to that
that'd be
particular
nice.
property.
Any comments from the audience? Any more questions for the staff? Any more comments for the applicant? Can I hear an action motion then?
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation from planning staff for the 1021-2023 East Star project be approved, including the 3 conditions outlined in staff's memo dated March 1st, 2023.
Second.
Having a motion and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Sure,
Thanks,
thank
Mike.
you.
Good luck.
Having concluded our meeting, I don't have anything else. Other than
2
planning-
updates.
Planning portion?
Yeah. Coming out of the workshop with council, we talked about a couple different things, but we did talk about some potential ordinance changes to our mixed-use activity district, some setbacks, some FAR changes, and then some changes to our off-street parking and loading in regard to those 3-sided parking structures being required for 50% of parking for multifamily developments. We are proceeding with a proposed ordinance amendment. It's going to be on the council docket for Monday night with a proposed public hearing date of April 24th. So that actual ordinance amendment will be coming back before Planning Commission at the April meeting for a recommendation to council. The other public hearing that we have floating out there is for the conservation residential overlay, lifting that out of the zoning ordinance temporarily, not lifting it, but lifting it from properties. That's part of a comprehensive zoning map amendment, and that public hearing has been scheduled for June 5th. At some point in time, between now and then, it'll come back before Planning Commission for a recommendation. I need time to notify property owners and go through my due diligence, but before June 5th, obviously, it'll come back before Planning Commission.
Very good. And a question that kind of dovetails on, the next component of that, once we see those particular properties removed from those conservation residential overlays, is, there was conceptually discussion about what form and shape that may take. Do we have an update on the comprehensive plan process? Because I think one of the first questions from the audience was, what is the plan process to develop some of these ordinances and talk about what is best for the community and solicit that from the community as a whole, at large?
That outcome of the workshop shifted the goals of the comp plan process for us. we've not started writing those RFPs yet, but We've had conversations with council about integrating into the comp plan process, developing that criteria, Rocco, and analyzing those properties and having the consultants as part of the comp plan process help us with that. Looking at what has been done elsewhere for some good case studies on what the criteria may be. So I think the goal at this time is to incorporate that into the comp plan revision. So obviously include that in any RFPs that we write and send out. I'm sure I'll have updates as we go along this process, but later this spring into the summer, the goal is to have those RFPs at least begun.
And that comp plan is really the start of the next round of revising any ordinances where.
Yeah, we were talking hefty zoning ordinance
Right.
changes.
And we would go out, that comp plan process seeks to pull in the community, pull in community involvement. There was, last time we did that in 2013 or beforehand, being a part of that group, there was banners on the trail. So any way we can get that word out to enhance public participation in the comp plan process is critical, because that basically informs the zoning laws, which then this board helps to move forward.
Yeah, and that's, public participation is a huge part of what we do. It's integral to the comprehensive plan process. There's no way about it. And it's going to be very important for us to get the word out and get some public comments.
And thank you for that workshop. That was a good workshop. I think we were all on board, and we saw the direction that we all agreed to take, and we're taking it. So good. It's a good workshop. Thanks, Seth. And I'd be amiss if I didn't say we wish Ed was here for one final goodbye, but we're going to miss Ed. How many years was Ed here at the
I'm
Township?
right. He's been planning director, well, as of Monday, but planning director for 33 years.
33 years. For those of you that don't know, our planning director retired after 33 years here in Peters Township.
He's got a couple more weeks of working days, but
Yeah.
he's on his way out.
Okay.
It's
Well, we wish him-
well-deserved
We miss him.
retirement.
We'll miss it.
Yeah.
Not that we don't enjoy having you. We'll miss it.
We'll have to make sure Ed watches tonight's.
I'll force him to.
Just the end.
Just
Thanks, Ed.
All right. For that, I'm going to close the meeting officially. Thank you.